So why don't we start with a little bit of more of a logistics? Just curious. Normally, in the past, when we have the budget deliberations, there's a bit more of a discussion around the operating side and going a bit line by line. But we noticed that in this meeting, there wasn't as much of that. Can you give us any context to that?
Well, because this is a different system under the strong mayor powers, every mayor has to present the budget. The last 2 years, I just presented it as given to me by staff. This time, because of the financial crisis, I could not do that. I spent 30 days looking at the budget, every different direction. So I gave them 3 recommendations. They chose to disregard 2, which was disappointing, because now for the first time in 21 years, we're about to be debt free. Now we're taking on debt. And once you sip from that cup, you'll be back again and again. And that to me was the disappointing part. This is the year of affordability, 2026. And yet we're adding almost a 5%. And I suspect it's going to be higher increase to the budget. And that to me was disappointing. However, I always accept, that's their choice. You give them your best advice. And if they overrule it, then there are things that will roll from that. And that includes the library project in Brights Grove. Mm-hmm. We've given over $4.3 million to that project already. All I suggested was not to eliminate it, to defer it, and to get some serious questions answered from the public and from myself and others. They chose not to do that. So now the responsibility goes back by default to the council on those decisions.
During the meeting yesterday, city staff warned council about a potential 17+ tax increase for 2027. What immediate fiscal measures do you think need to happen to prevent this, tough time or rolling with this scenario if we do get there?
Marlon, that was the irony yesterday. The council was fully informed. You've been going to the reserves. There was $27 million taken from reserves in the last 4 years. A lot of that going to policing, and we're actually effectively subsidizing their budget. So they were told, don't do that. Stay away from the reserves. And, for people that aren't familiar with them, they're the little bank accounts we have to draw upon to buy things over time, to do this and do that. And there's always a balance between how much should be and there isn't. Right now, they're depleted. And the message from staff, this is not trying to be dramatic. You're looking at a 16%. The new council next year will be looking at a 16% increase just to start the budget. And this is in a year that we're going to be in great economic difficulty because of the tariffs, because of what's happening in the national economy. So I didn't understand that because they started going to the reserves again, saying, well, it's not hurting the tax levy. It does. And going out to borrow starts us back into that. At one point in time, the city was spending 15 cents on every dollar we collected from the taxpayers of Sarnia on the debt. And if you look at the federal provincial governments, a lot of their spending is simply to deal with their debt. Mm-hmm. And if you're in your own personal situation, that's what happens to you too. If you've got a massive debt, you're servicing it and you're not actually able to use the money for the things you really need to do.
Speaking of using your veto powers, are there any topics right now that are sort of on your mind where you think perhaps you would use them in order to sort of uphold the affordability for residents?
Well, I will review the whole list. Obviously, the one issue that I hear the most from the public on, overwhelmingly negative on a new police station, and wanting them to look at other options and not the one of building it in compartments, because the debt will still be there for 25 years. And we're talking over 120 million by the time this project's done. And that will stop other projects happening in the city. The one thing I do want to point out, if anyone watched the budget presentation yesterday, we're putting 60 million into the community this coming year in infrastructure, roads, sewers, you name it, parks, arenas. We're also spending 195 million plus to reinvest and keep our services going. And then in the report yesterday, I thought was really good. In the last 4 years, we've spent over 200 million in capital investment in the community, from libraries, a new one at Clearwater, upgrading the Sarnia Library, new equipment in different areas for city services. So it's not like we're just standing back and saying, batten down the hatch. It says, be strategic. Right now, it's a time of just dealing with what the community needs, not what it wants.
And with regards to the police headquarters, do you think that borrowing $5 million towards that new project is the best compromise for all parties involved? I mean, they do have issues at the station, but of course, as you're talking about, is it the right time? We need a compromise somewhere.
The right time issue. This present chief and board, in the last 5 years, in their capital budgets, put nothing into that station. It's obvious now, looking back, that the plan was, we're just going to keep on running down the station. We're not going to address the issues. And I was on that board for a long time. I was chair of the board for many years. We did do renewal of the building. We looked at issues. That's what everyone does. You do it in your own home. Things change. You need to change the carpeting. You need to change the furnace. You do that. And I think that's the big issue here. The public is really savvy. I did not have one positive email for a new station from the public. And they're focused on their own lives right now and knowing what they do in their own lives. And they want to understand, why would you do this at this time? It shows to me that the police board and the police chief right now are totally out of touch with the community as it relates to the economic situations we're dealing with, not just in Sarnia, but right across this country.
Okay. And let's shift to the Brights Grove Library. So council voted to fund this project by shifting $2 million from other sources while not impacting the levy. Do you think this is responsible financial management, or do you see a potential risk being created down the road?
Well, that's why I voiced my concerns. Is it tender ready? In my view, and the experts around me are telling me, no, it's not. And don't anyone say that, oh, it's not going to hurt the levy. It always comes back to, we don't have a money machine at City Hall. We're not the Bank of Sarnia. So there's always a levy impact. And I point out to you that we've given over $4 million to that project. Good luck on their fundraising. They seem to be off to a really good start. But we were told there's going to be 4 from the federal government. Disappeared. Just disappeared. And so I'm really concerned about the cost of this project. Will it stay in that $5 million range? Because it's gone from 3 way up now. Some people are estimating $8 or $9 million. And that's why I'm saying to council, you need to take some control of this project. They have chosen to go this route, and time will be the test. Time will say whether that council group was right or I was wrong. And I was wrong, I'll admit it. But my job is to give fiscal advice and strategic advice to council, and I'll continue to do that no matter how unpopular it is.